Joining me now is going to be Anni Cyrus, but I first want you to watch this.
West Bank, sorry,
yeah, go ahead. We'll do. Yeah.
The West Bank vote yesterday that took place while you were in the country.
Oh yeah, that was weird. That was weird. I was sort of confused by that. Now I actually asked somebody about it, and they told me that it was a symbolic vote, some symbolic vote to recognize or a symbolic vote to annex the West Bank. I mean, what I would say to that is when I asked about it, somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance. It was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we also played that on radio today, as well as the clip we played tonight of President Trump at the Oval Office desk saying the same thing. We heard from Aaron Levarco, our reporter on the ground in Israel, and Dr. Rob Lindstedt on this. Let's get a response from Anni Cyrus on this, and then another breaking news story tonight, which is this one right here. State Department just made human rights optional. Okay, we'll get into that in just a minute. Annie, we saw a very exercised Aaron Levarco, particularly on radio and TV today, because as you know, I was trying to tell him last week, and it was kind of the tensest back and forth debate he and I have ever had, I think. And I was trying to say, your country's getting set up. You know, I know you want to be positive with all the hostages being released and all, but you guys are being set up. When you're dragging troops from Turkey into the Gaza, when Erdogan wants to go to war with your country, you're being set up. Now, thankfully, I guess the Trump people are backing away from that because Israel's saying that's just not going to happen. But what on earth do you think these people are thinking to even recommend that Turkish troops go in there to start with?
Well, if your audience would go back to somewhere late June, early July, I also joined you and Aaron on your radio when I had a little bit of a heated moment with him where I said, Aaron, when will it stop? When will you stop listening to Trump making decisions for your country? And I think today is the day. J.D. Vance stands there. First of all, how dare, he's not even the president, he's the vice president. How dare he would call the decision of the Knesset a symbolic. They're not Americans. The only politicians who do symbolic moves are the American politicians with no backbones. He calls it a symbolic move, then he calls it a stupid political statement, and then he says it's just not going to happen. This is the important sentence, Brannon. It's not going to happen because Trump administration policy is it's not going to happen. Are we expanding America? We just didn't know. Because as far as I know, Trump administration policies belong to Trump administration policies in America. Nobody has obligation to listen to Trump policies.
But I thought the Jews ran the world and that Benjamin Netanyahu was the one that had a leash on Trump and held the end of the leash, and Trump was his lapdog. But, you know, as I said on the radio today, where are all the anti-Semites coming out tonight apologizing? Oh, we're sorry we were running around saying Netanyahu runs the world, Netanyahu and the Jews run everything, that America's run by Jews. Well, that just got proven wrong by both the president and the vice president. So at least I thank them for that.
Exactly. And let's not mention, I will hold this against Bibi for coming out and backing J.D. Vance. I don't know if you've heard the press release he did or the talking to cameras he did, calling Knesset out for doing this, blaming the opposition that they did it on purpose while J.D. Vance was traveling to Israel to create division. That was not a good move from Bibi either. Even if I know he wants this to happen. But to keep face, he comes out and call out his own Knesset because, as you heard, J.D. Vance apparently took some, what did he say, defense?
He took some offense. He took some offense to it, right?
Offense. So that right there, who has the leash around whose neck? When Bibi comes out blaming his own Knesset for trying to save its own people, yeah, no, Trump is the one who's controlling Bibi.
Well, and Bibi is about to lose his government. If some of the conservatives on the right, far right, as they call them over there, decide to pull out of the coalition, I think his government will collapse.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I don't. How is that symbolic? So when you say, "Oh, I think that's a symbolic vote," I'm thinking, wait a minute. I don't think JD understands how, shall we say, radical, because that's what we always are told about the folks over there. Well, those Orthodox, those right-wingers, those more religious Jews, they're radical. Okay, you can call them what you want, describe them how you want, but when they vote, I don't think that's symbolic, and no one's going to say it's symbolic when the government collapses. We're going to say, well, wait a minute, what should we have done to keep that from happening? Because now Benjamin Netanyahu's gone. Who's going to replace him, right?
And let me ask you this. Who's going to benefit if Netanyahu's government collapses? Who's going to benefit from that? The man who's trying so desperately to get a deal. That's who's going to, I'm just going to say it. If Bibi's government collapse, Trump is the only one who's going to benefit from it. Whomever sits in Bibi's seat will agree to whatever Trump says, because when you watch the bully kick somebody out of the game, you're going to listen to the bully so you don't get kicked out of the game. People don't want to admit to it, but as Trump said himself, what did Trump say exactly? It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen because I gave my word to the Arab nations that are giving us good support. Isn't that what he said? That's what he said to Time Magazine. Within very sentence where he said he is now making decision on release of Bugatti, or however you pronounce it here.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Are you familiar with this gentleman? I've been following him on social media lately. Dumasani Washington. He is a Black Zionist, founder, CEO of Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, author of Zionism in the Black Church. And I don't know a lot about him, but I find his social media posts lately very interesting. So Trump supporters who keep blaming Biden for funding the Taliban can now blame Trump for funding the Taliban, even though the House passed a bill to defund the Taliban, which distributes money to Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Shabab, Boko Haram, and many other terrorist organizations. The U.S. is a vassal state of the Islamic Caliphate. Now, this is getting interesting because, you know, there's one group of people say the Jews run America. And then there's me, and I think you, who are saying, wait a minute, it seems to me it's the Islamic world that's running America. Who's pumping billions of dollars in here? Who has business deals with all the Islamists? I mean, the money that AIPAC has is nothing compared to what the Islamic world has. But isn't it interesting that you have people now in the MAGA world, in America First world, in conservative circles, Republican circles, however you want to describe them, the Christian community, that are either lined up on the side of the Jews run the world, the Zionists are the problem, or us, that is, no, what the Muslims and the Marxists are doing to the Jews, they're going to do to us. They're going to go after the Saturday people, then they're going to go after the Sunday people, that's us. And we had better understand that all of this is a distraction to blame everything on the Jews because of it's a spiritual battle and its desire to wipe out the Jewish people so Bible prophecy can't be fulfilled. But it's also really, really, really helping China, Iran, the red-green axis, because so many people are concentrating on the Jews, which is giving cover for what is the real takeover, which is the Islamist. And we're about to have an Islamist, maybe for the mayor of Minneapolis, but surely I think that guy's going to win in New York. But he says the U.S. is they're both going to win. The U.S. is a vassal state of the Islamic Caliphate. But isn't it interesting, Annie, the groups that are either everything's the problem with the Jews, and then us saying, wait a minute, the problem is the Islamists, which are the ones that are helping to fund the propaganda that the problem's all the Jews.
Uh-huh. Isn't that biblical?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we were told it's going to happen?
Yes.
There is no middle ground anymore. It's those of us who see the truth, who seek the truth, who report the truth, And then there are those who will say whatever it takes to bash and get rid of Jews. The whole world is at that point. It's not just US. Europe is the same. Canada is the same. Middle East is the same. But the question is, how can one, as you said, how can anyone at this point claim that? Even Candace Owen jumped off of the Jews killed Charlie Kirk train. She is now claiming Trump killed Charlie Kirk.
I saw that. Ugh. Ugh.
It's so irrational. When you listen to Trump talk about the Arab nations, the passion. When you talk about J.D. Vance trying to save face, saying, yeah, I was confused, and then I wasn't confused, I was offended, and somebody told me it's a, symbolic. You got Marco Rubio now going to Israel trying to salvage what's left of this never-existing peace. You got Kushner, and how long has it been that Witkoff and Kushner's been there? Like 10 days, 12 days now? Achieving nothing? It's pretty clear who Trump administration works for. We sat here the first few months saying, who's running the show? Who's running the show? Well, there you have it. I see on social media of my own supporters who attacked me a few weeks ago over my reporting, now saying I'm starting to think Qatar bought Trump. I'm like, well, welcome to the club. Took you a minute, but I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah. Well,
it is way too clear who's running the world. And with the breaking news that you mentioned at the early on, that is the icing on the cake. The cover-up officially started.
I want to also bring up this tweet by our mutual friend Daniel Greenfield. The Palestinian nation building project is the fool's errand of the Carter administration, bequeathed down to 7 administrations, which came to believe that the only hope for the future rests in achieving the happiness of our enemies. Wise leaders build up our own nation. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Even though I know I've been in America for about just 24 years, which is more than half of my life, but I don't remember the last leader who did that in my lifetime in America. Every leader's been so busy either destroying America or busy funding the enemy of America, which is the same thing at the end of the day. And again, it is so ironic when your entire slogan was "Make America Great Again." America first. The rest of them didn't claim that. They didn't.
And Annie, last night after I got off the air, Melissa and I watched, 4 parts of Red Alert?
Yes.
4 parts, okay? I didn't want to read subtitles, but you kept telling me I have to see this. And so I started it and I couldn't finish it. And I'm like, I finally didn't bother me reading the subtitles. And I stopped it about a minute, maybe 2-3 minutes into it. I stopped it and said, Melissa, you got to come in here and watch this. So she sat with me and we watched the whole thing. And the last hour, I looked at my watch and said, man, it's getting late. She's like, I know, but we have to finish. We have to finish. I'm like, yeah, we do. It was that. We did it all in one sitting. And I think everyone should watch it. I can't believe Paramount put it out. Red Alert. I want to show you the trailer because this is what I saw last night as I described on radio today. And then I woke up to this controversy again of President Trump and J.D. Vance saying, no, we're not going to let Israel annex the West Bank, the derogatory term for Judea and Samaria. I'm thinking, that's none of your business. And number 2, here on this broadcast, particularly radio, I was saying to Aaron months and months ago, last year, I'm concerned that Judea and Samaria are going to become a new Gaza with a terrorist attack. You have so many jihadis living in the West Bank and building terror tunnels in the West Bank, right?
Oh, and you know where Barghouti is from? That Trump is now considering releasing him?
The West Bank.
Yes.
And you know where some of the terrorists went to? Some of the terrorists went that they just released and traded with. They got dumped off in the West Bank.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, after watching Red Alert last night, I'm like, why on earth are they not cleaning all of those Islamists out of the West Bank before they have another October 7th, right? Watch
because
this.
They won the next October 7th.
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Watch this.
ראית שמפן? בעזה? כשהייתי ילד היו ניסים לשנות.
ולא פחדת?
היום אני לא מפחד.
עד שאני חולה עליך.
شو هذا سلاح؟
זה בקיבוץ?
افتحوا الشباك.
לאן אתה הולך?
לראות אם צריך עזרה. לך כפר, אלוהים ישמור אותך.
את נורמלית לאן שלחת אותו? חיים שלי, הרובי.
אני בא אלייך לוחמים.
צועים עליי!
בן שלי, ראית את הבן שלי?
אני אהיה פה בחוץ לדלת.
הם יחזרו.
אבו שאתה שם?
פליז, not the wallet. לא יכול להיות שם לבד.
סגי, וחיאתך, חלאס, וחיאתך.
אני מחתנת את הבת שלי עוד שבועיים. אתה חתני, אתה בא לי בדרך.
אנחנו קוראים חיים שלי. Come with us.
You took already one child.
בואי נלך הביתה.
I just am stunned after watching that last night that Paramount, I don't know a lot about Paramount, but any of these big companies like that, I just, in this age of political correctness and all, I mean, all I can say is thank you, Paramount. That was so well done, professionally produced. The acting was amazing. Sometimes you see these films that have great messages, but the acting is so poor. The script is poor. This was first class production here. And what I loved about it at the end was, as you know, Annie, because you're the one who told me to watch it, was at the end, they showed us the actor and actresses with the people they were portraying of those that were still alive. A couple of them didn't make it. But to see some of those folks sitting in a director's chair with their headphones on next to the camera, watching this individual portraying them, watching them stand next to each other, laughing, embracing each other, that at the end you see that and what was shocking was how much the people they chose to play them looked like them. Melissa's like, they look like them. That little girl that you just saw in the trailer with her mother. I mean, what a cute little girl. And I said to my wife, isn't she adorable? She's just a cute little girl. And she did a fabulous job as an actress, little girl. And at the end, they showed the little girl with the real little girl. And it was shocking how much they looked.
Like sisters.
They did. They looked like sisters. And I watched that film. I said this to the radio audience today at 1. As I was watching that film and with the truth of the story and being a father and a grandfather, I couldn't help but be moved by that little girl and the little boy. Because as a parent, as a grandparent, you're thinking, about your kids, your grandkids, and children. And I thought to myself several times watching this, how can people be so hateful toward the Jewish people? How can you be hatred toward anyone, right? How can people be racist toward a little black child, right? Or a little Asian child? But how can you be, as anti-Semitism is growing, how can you be so hateful toward a group of people when you look at these sweet little children that were just living their life with their parents and their moms and dads get murdered, and some of them were murdered and their siblings murdered. And I'm thinking, where is the thinking that you're going to blame all of the problems of the world on the Jews when we know that they're such a small percentage of the world's population, number one. And it's not rational, but it's not even reality to think you're going to smear a whole group of people. And when you look at these children, you're thinking, do these people have no soul? Do they have no soul? Why are you setting out to ridicule and dehumanize these little children? Annie?
It's interesting you say that because one of the scenes, I also did it at one time. I actually called you immediately when I finished watching it on a Friday morning. I spent the 4 hours to watch it. And if you remember, I said, I don't easily cry, but I was bawling the whole time. But one of the moments, though I'm not a parent, I don't have parents, but one of the moments that got me thinking very deeply is, at what age do these parents have to teach their kids what's coming? Because you notice the kids are trained.
Yes.
They know what's happening.
Yep.
The boy is, I think, 8 or 9 or 10. The sister is 7 or 8. They are already trained. They know what to do. They know where the charger is. They know where the 8 kid is. It's like, when I always have spoken on as an ex-Muslim saying, they took away my childhood. They take away our innocence in childhood. And when I was watching this, I realized they take away the Jewish kids' childhood too, because they have to learn about this evil so early on to one day survive one way or another, or one day grow up to be IDF soldiers. All these years, my whole mindset was the Muslim kids, especially Muslim girls, are the one being robbed of their childhood and innocence, until that moment in that bedroom when I saw the kids' role of prepping. And that's when it hit me. I was like, wow, it's not just the kids. It's not just the Muslim kids they're robbing. It's the Jewish kids. I never thought of it until I saw that scene, Brannon. I never thought how early on they have to teach their kids. If they kill me, you do this. That's where you run. That's what you do. You walk with your 3 children, one of them baby in your arm. They watch their father bleeding on the floor, and they can't flinch because you taught them not to show fear. How can we defend anyone who's doing? Everybody screams in America of, we got to cherish our kids, and children trafficking and sex trafficking should stop, yada, yada. What about their kids? What about these kids who, and again, we're just watching Red Alert that is about October 7th, but this is their daily life. Me and you, we know that. Aaron can testify.
And these were families that were living on the border of Gaza. Some of them were living and letting the Palestinians come through the fence and work on their kibbutz, work in their gardens. They were into the whole interfaith dialogue, coexist. They were some of them, I would say, some of the hippies, if you will. These kids killed at that musical. Some of them would have been more liberal. Some of the Burning Man type, like a Burning Man, kind of the hippies. And look what they did to them. In other words, some of these people would have been the whole social justice warriors. And look what they did to the social justice warriors. They gang raped them, set them on fire alive.
Well,
and you think you can make peace with these people? You think, the Muslim family that you end up seeing at the end, that Muslim man who they killed his wife.
And their friend who was also going to work. They accused him of working for IDF and just shot him dead right there. That's what I mean by stop the radical versus moderate thing. There's just one Islam, there's one jihadist, and they don't care who you are. Listen, on September 11th, did they check in with all the passengers to ask if they're Muslim or not? No, they didn't. When I did the 20th year memorial of September 11th, some of the videos we made in memory of those killed, 3 of them were Muslims. They were just as guilty as the rest of them, though, for hanging out with the kafir, for being moderate, for not being jihadist. They're just as guilty. Again, Quran 5:51. Do not take Jews and Christians as your allies, and if you do so, you are against Allah.
You're a hypocrite.
Short version.
You're a hypocrite.
Yes. Well, hypocrites are described in Islam as against Allah. That's hypocrisy. You're either with Allah, die in name and cause of Allah, otherwise you're a hypocrite, which is, so it doesn't matter. Stop the moderate, radical, all of it. There's just one version. And I actually am still searching to try to find some sort of contact for the mother. You see her getting wounded in the trailer in her car. I want to write her, the real person, because how many years she has faced this to be such a strong leader in middle of all that chaos, while her own kids are in line of fire.
She was a kindergarten she was a kindergarten teacher.
But the moment that was needed to be a strong leader, she became that, a strong leader, her pajamas.
Yeah, and one wonders if she was in the IDF at one point in her life, right? Because
I looked up, she wasn't.
She wasn't.
She had no training. Her husband was, and her son was starting to join, but she wasn't herself. Her husband was, who was killed, by the way. The husband was killed by Muslim jihadists. But you look at these, I remember once on your show, I asked people to watch it because, it was when you had me and Dave Gobbets on. I said, if you want to learn how to set up your mind for when we get hit, watch this. That's where you see the mindset of surviving.
And it also taught me, do not put off what you need to do to prepare. Because if the storyline is true, the handle of the door for the safe room for the family was broken. And as a result, he could not pull the door shut and lock it from the inside. He had to go on the outside and shut it and lock it. But that meant he was on the outside and the family is on the inside. I don't want to give too much away because I want people to go watch it. But what it told me was, do not delay in making your preparations. Because one simple thing like fixing a lock on a door, securing the door, having enough ammunition, whatever it is, having a spot by which you can defend the high ground of your home. Look, I don't think I've ever said this bluntly, but if this trend continues in our country, I have briefed my family and briefed my guys in the control room that if we have that perfect day where they do multiple terrorist attacks in one day, I fully expect one day, since they've already targeted my conference with a gunman from Saudi Arabia, targeted my 2018 conference by Black Lives Matter, Muslim Brotherhood, and Antifa types on social media and had our contracts canceled in 4 out of 5 cities. I anticipate that one day they will show up, several of them at one time, to try to kill us at our studio or take over our studio and to broadcast us on the air with them with guns on us and maybe even killing us on camera, because that's the way they create terror. And if you don't think we haven't prepared as much as we can, as accordingly, we have. But it told me last night watching that, when the dad had delayed fixing something, I thought that should be a lesson to every American. Do not put off fixing even what you think is the smallest thing, or, I won't really need that, right? It seemed as though from the film, they were not expecting the worst. They were preparing for bombs coming in. They were prepared for broken glass and the need for metal doors and metal shades on their windows, etc. But it does not appear as though they were preparing for armed conflict on the ground. And yet that's what Gordon Chang and many others have been warning, whether it's the Marxist side or the Islamic side. Many of you have been hearing us, from Annie to myself to Gordon Chang to Dave Gobbets to others, say they want conflict on the ground. They want war on the ground in America. Well, how many of our listening audience today are prepared for physical battle? And yet here they were in Israel. This is what they grew up in. And I gathered from the way the whole thing went down, they were shocked that these Islamists were going house to house, that they were on their grounds. It did not appear as though they had prepared for that part. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But the mindset was trained. That's why they were able to quickly switched to battlefield. Every single one of them. And that is when I say, well, I'm going to say this, 99.9% of Americans today, of any generation, they consider the basic inconvenient a trauma. They won't survive. They won't. They will sit down, put their hands on their head, and let them be taken or killed. You need to train as much as physically you need to be fit. Yes, if you come to my house, Brannon, I have practiced every corner of every room because I don't know which room I'm going to be in when jihadists break into my house. Every corner of my house, I have practiced defending myself, not hiding, not keeping my mouth shut until they leave. No, to defend myself in my house. But on top of that, even when I have a crooked neck, 12 degrees to the left of my body, I sit here and do my job. I do my writing. Why? Because when I get through that pain, when they are putting me through that pain, my brain can still process rational decisions instead of desperate decisions. We need to change this spoiled mindset in America, where a simple 92 degrees heat on the highway and a flat tire equals trauma they need 3 days to recover from. Toughen up. That's why they survived. Though they weren't prepared, they relied on safety of that border. When they got hit, they switched their mindset into battlefield. They fought.
The other thing
we need to do the same thing here.
100% agree. And by the way, the mindset, we saw that during the Korean War with our own military soldiers. Their minds were not prepared for what they were going to face. And they came home from the Korean War and told the government, when the government was doing a study of why so many of them died or became collaborators with the communists in the POW camps of the Korean War. Well, if we'd only known. And they found that 4 out of 10 men would pull the sheets up over their head and will themselves to die. And they would die. The government didn't have a name for it, but the men did. They called it give-up-itis. Yeah. Because their mind had not been prepared. And it was out of that the government created the military code of conduct. Right? So this is your code. This is what's expected of you. They train their mind. This is exactly what you're talking about. Preparing the American people for war. And I'm telling you right now, everything that I see, and I hate to say it, I don't want to sit here and talk negative about President Trump and his administration. I would love to sit here and tell you all the great successes and be worn out from telling you all the great successes that this guy's having. But look, the globalists are somebody.
You're not in business of making things up. Therefore, you can't say all the great achievements.
No. And he's distracted. He's I don't know if they've compromised him somewhere with money. But I know the deals that we've been told about and that you can read about. But this is not the same guy from the first administration. But I would love to sit here and say all these great things. But if he continues down this road, the Islamists are going to take over this country, okay? And they are being empowered, and they're being defended, and they're being called good guys, strong guys, good-looking guys. And the American people are being lulled into a false sense of security. They're being lulled into a lie about Islam, and they're going to be completely unprepared for the battle that these guys are preparing. But I also noticed that during this film, they could not rely on the first responders. Now, our own government has put out a report by the Department of National Intelligence, the DNI, that first responders, this is what they're doing. They're apparently stealing or developing the uniforms of police, of fire, of EMTs, and wearing their uniforms.
Why would they even bother to steal them? There are stores you can walk in. They sell props for movies.
That's right. Absolutely.
9 out of 10 Americans cannot tell the difference between a fake police badge versus real. I promise you they don't know how to tell the difference.
No.
They don't know how many digit numbers are FBI IDs versus police ID versus fire department. These are the things when I say mentally preparing, this is what it is. Become super paranoid, learn everything. My whole life in last 12 years, if I get a knock at my door, which I get plenty, and they identify as police, I ask for badge number, not the badge. I ask for badge number first. I don't open the door. I don't care if they're wearing the uniform, even if they park a police car in front of my house. I don't open the door.
Well, isn't that the lady that was assassinated in Minnesota, the state legislator, the former, was she the current or former Speaker of the House? The guy shows up posing as a cop, right?
Exactly. Exactly. We need to step up. The comfort, the good days of great America and its safety is over, my fellow Americans. It's up to you. You're more than welcome to deny it. You can stay in your bubble until somebody bursts for you when it's too late. But to back up what Brannon is saying, you need to realize that President Trump is defending Arab nations when it comes to our strongest ally in Middle East.
And they wanted to put Turkey's soldiers in the Gaza, for Pete's sake.
After we already started selling Turkey F-35s, after Turkey already said they're going to start arming Syria.
And we're going to help them build a nuclear reactor, right? A nuclear facility.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Why? I mean, this is blowing my mind. If someone had told me this, last summer, a year ago, before the election, I'm like, no. Did you hear what he said the first term? Did you hear, but that, as I go back to that point about the other thing I learned, don't put things off that need to be fixed or prepared for it, number one. Number two, Annie said, prepare your mind. Number three, I learned from watching Red Alert last night, you're on your own. Sarah Adams and myself and Annie and many of us, even before we knew who Sarah was and started reading some of her stuff on the air, we were saying your town police officers are not going to be able to handle it. They're going to be overwhelmed. Some of them are not going to go on the job. They're going to stay at home with their families. And I don't blame them for what they get paid. You're on your own. You better have your emergency kits. You better have weapons. You better be, because in Israel, the guys kept calling, the IDF Special Forces guys kept calling for the ambulances. They murdered the ambulance drivers and EMT. There were no ambulances for a long time because they had taken out the ambulances. They had taken out the EMT, and they kept calling and calling and calling for backup. Where's the backup? They were on their own and for hours.
I believe almost 7 hours, 56 minutes or so, close to 8 hours, until the first group of IDF was able to show up. Military.
And that was at the festival.
Yes, at the festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I learned a lot last night, and I had reinforced a lot last night.
Yes, and when Brannon says have your emergency kit and your weapon and ammo, all of that, having it is different than knowing how to use it.
Right.
Here's what I do once a week when I get a chance, but I make sure it's once a week. I open my first aid drawer. Mine isn't a kit, it's a giant drawer. And I re-inventorize. Did I use anything this week I need to refill? Okay, I have this many. It's same thing with your weapons. Even if you didn't go shooting, clean it. Clean it. I can't tell you how many people I have come across. They have the weapon, but the last time they even checked on it was 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen when it jams? You're going to throw it at people? Unless you're like me, you're very good at aiming and throwing. Otherwise, your gun is useless. Clean your gun. Clean your ammo drawer. Re-inventorize your kit. Learn. Read every label on your emergency kit. Because it tells you how to use it.
Have blood stop. We sell some of it at our store, worldviewstore.com. Have the powder to stop bleeding. Have the ability to compress any wounds. Because anybody that's EMT will tell you the way to drastically increase survivability is to stop the bleeding.
Yes.
And we saw that in this film. People that have been horrifically shot, in some cases multiple times, they had at least gotten the bleeding under control with a tourniquet or something else, enough to then get them help to the hospital. But again, you're not going to be able to rely on the ambulances in most cases. They're going to be swamped. You're going to have to get to a hospital on your own. And you may not have that. You may need to work with doctors in your community. I have a friend of mine, he was on here the other day. He's an internal medicine doctor. I have an ER doctor that lives at the mouth of my cove. So, you know, I know who the doctors are, right, in my area. And I'm telling you, you got to know who these people are, and you've got to be prepared. Now, with that, I want to switch real quick to something that was asked, I think this was today, right, guys? By Jordan. You're going to notice, maybe you'll recognize the voice. This is Jordan from the Gateway Pundit, who we've interviewed so many times. I guess he's now at the White House. But listen to this question. This is really interesting. Here we go.
Question for Secretary Hegseth. Sir, a memo circulating on social media details the establishment of a National Guard response force that's going to be trained in crowd control and civil unrest and deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026. Can you verify the authenticity of that memo, and do you have any more information on the operations?
I'm not going to answer particulars on something that may be in the planning process, but we definitely do have multiple layers of National Guard response forces, whether it's in each state, whether it's regionally, whether it's Title 10 active duty, whether it's Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of different ways that constitutionally and legally we can employ Title 10 and Title 32 forces, and we will do so when necessary.
And of course, we've been talking about that. I think some of it's based out of Alabama. What do you think they're preparing for, if they really are preparing for trained crowd control and civil unrest to be deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026?
That is very interesting. I'm almost caught off guard with that question and that answer. The only thing I can think of is they're expecting to see something go wrong with all the deals they're making. They know China, Russia, and Iran have plenty of soldiers in America who will fit in as Americans. They're not going to be foreign in our eyes. So are they worried there will be a attack that is going to be disguised as civil unrest? I don't know. That could be, but I don't know. This administration scares me, Brannon.
Well, listen to this by President Trump. This is very interesting too. Here we go.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. When you were running for re-election in 2024, you released a video statement where you made this exact promise to show no mercy on the cartels and employ every military asset necessary to combat them. In that same video, you also said that you plan to expose all the bribes and corruptions with politicians and the cartels.
We're doing that. Yeah, we're trying to do that.
Looking into that in American politicians.
Yeah, where the money's coming from. Because you see it. Like even that garbage deal they had this weekend, which was embarrassing to them, and the crowds were much more, the crowds were not big. Those crowds were not big at all. But when you look at signs, and they're all made beautifully, the yellow signs, I saw the yellows, the blues, but they're all made professionally in a printing shop, looks like on Madison Avenue someplace. Some guy is paying for all that stuff. And we don't mind protest. Protest is a good thing. I protest. I'm always protesting, right? But when you see some of these people are going crazy. They're going crazy because they're getting paid. Because there's no reason for them to be going crazy. But you watch some of them, and they're professional agitators, and we are finding out who's paying them. Yeah, we have a lot of information about who they are. You're going to be very surprised when you find out.
Now, I'm going to praise President Trump, if that's all right. I'm glad they're going to get to the bottom of that and like to see them do something about it. And if they've broken the law, then, you know, the consequences are meted out. But we've had White House hearings with the president on Antifa. They're talking now about basically the red side, the Marxist side, the Antifa side. But why are we not exploring the green side? The money coming into the U.S. by Qatar. Oh, wait a minute, because we have some problems there. We can't really go after Qatar. Why are we not talking about Saudi Arabia and all the mosques they fund in America? Oh, wait a minute, we can't. We have relationships with Saudi Arabia. I mean, when you go on, you find out, well, why don't we designate Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, right? Why don't we go after CARE? You see what I'm saying, Annie? I appreciate what he's saying there and the desire to get to the bottom of the subversive groups that want to carry out a real insurrection in the country. But notice it's always on the side of the right. We don't hear them saying we're going to get to the bottom of all this Islamic money that's coming into the country. Not to mention all these mosques that are here that are teaching and training these people for revolution.
Well, number one, I will genuinely disagree. Can he start being a president? They have professionally printed banners. Mr. President, it's 2025. When I had my rally in Omaha, Nebraska in 2022, we had very nicely printed banners, and I didn't have a sponsor because they are not that expensive anymore. Just saying.
You can just go to Office Depot or wherever and get them printed.
Right? Like, and here's the thing. Why is he dodging the question, by the way? You see, that's exactly what he just did. And he got your attention, not mine. The question wasn't about the rally of no king funding. The question was corruption and funding of politicians, not the no king rally. He answered a very different question that he had in his mind. And I will praise him the moment I see it happen. I'm sorry. Trump talking means nothing to me anymore. I believe him when I see resolution, bottom line.
So you want to see action, not talk.
He's been doing plenty talking, and he has helped none of his talks. How many days? It's been 12 days. He's going to finish Hamas if Hamas doesn't come to the table. And I want to explain something to your audience, though they are very familiar with me in my mindset, but 12 days for Hamas is a long time. Most of allies of Hamas are within hours away from Hamas to fund, get weapons to them, send soldiers to back them up, reroute them, get them out of the zone, bring them back. 12 days is a very long time to keep. Listen, in 12 days, Israel almost finished the mullahs. Now, you tell me what Hamas could have done in 12 days. So when I say 12 days, I know in an American mindset, it's only 12 days. 12 days is a long time to keep buying time for Hamas. The same thing with, where are the arrests? They keep talking about indictments, Brannon, don't they? Mm-hmm. Who's been arrested? Who's been arrested? Nobody. Where are the deportations? Where are the deportations of IRGC-tied family members? Where are they? So, yes, I will gladly praise him when his talk turns into a walk. Until then, I'll take everything he says as far as positive with a grain of salt.
Foreign royal family now owns more of London than King Charles, and the numbers are alarming. Reportedly, that's from Reuters, but or at least the picture is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a true statement, but it wouldn't shock me if it is a true statement. Annie, before we go to our last story.
I would not be shocked either. I wouldn't. Now, it doesn't say which royal family. It says foreign, but the picture looked like a Qatari emir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I can definitely look into it for you if you want me to. For the next time I join you, I'll look into some numbers and the statements and see how much they own. But I do know a lot of multi-millionaires of regime of Iran members own a lot in London.
Well,
I know one of them.
The Financial Express has the article too.
Yeah.
September 9th, 2025.
Yeah.
Qatar.
Look at that, Qatar.
Qatar, yeah.
I knew it. That guy was a Qatari emir. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And that's happened. The things they're buying up in America is overwhelming.
Of course it is.
All right, let's go to
look at the bright side. J.D. Vance is trying to take every land back from China. That's how they keep themselves happy.
It's a distraction. It's distraction. We keep talking about good things, but I don't know that we're talking about the equally or maybe even more dominantly destructive Islam.
Well, here's the thing, Brannon. One of the things I always say is that, God forbid, if I'm diagnosed with cancer 2 days after I caught a cold, when I get over my cold, I'm not going to celebrate much because I still have the cancer to deal with. Mm-hmm. That's what we're facing. We have cancer, but then people are celebrating, the fever dropped. I think the flu is almost over. What about the cancer?
How about this? The State Department just made human rights optional. This is a new piece by you at liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Tell me about this, please, in closing.
Sure. Okay. So we have a law in America. I think correct pronunciation is Leahy law.
Yeah, it is.
Where it makes the United States of America obligated to not be involved with any kind of support or funding of armed forces, foreign armed forces who have any involvement with abuse of human rights. For example, we're not allowed to train, fund, send money, or sell even weapons to Taliban, right? Or Hamas, or Houthis, or Pakistan, or Yemen, or Lebanon. Originally in 1997, this law started being enforced, where diplomats and NGOs and whistleblowers from back doors of diplomacy would send reports like, hey, this group you're dealing with, you're selling arms to, they're committing human rights abuse. Finally, in 2020, a website opened up within the State Department website where even civilians now could report, any kind of abuse from any armed forces funded by U.S. Today, the State Department shut down that website. They shut it down. Meaning, though they claim that they're still playing by the law, by the rules, they just shut it down, meaning nobody can report what, let's say, the latest weapon sent to, by the way, we support 152 countries, okay? United States of America supports 152 countries militarily, either funding, training, or selling weapons to, or selling technology or weaponries to. That's 152 countries, Brannon. All of those 152 countries now are set free to break any human rights, to abuse any human rights, to kill, rape, torture, kidnap, whatever. And there will be no way of tracking them publicly anymore to hold our country, our government accountable and track our tax dollar any longer. And they have not given any reason, by the way. I personally have also submitted a request of reasoning because they cannot claim saving money for the country. It cost us nothing. Nothing. Because they're claiming that the team of investigators are still at hire. So they cannot say we fired the investigators, so we don't have to pay them. If the team of investigators are still there, the team that are receiving now, by the way, we're supposed to go backward in time and find ways to write letters, put it in the mail, and send it to them for investigation. So there is no reason given, but I'll tell you the reason. The recent pressures where you on your show say, why are you still sending money to Taliban? I say, why are we still giving money to Syria? Why are we still giving money to PLO? There's a short list of those who benefit from this. And the list I put on my on my Substack is exactly the new Arab allies of Trump administration. Every single one of them supposedly under investigation for human rights abuse. Suddenly we get rid of the information. If there is no report, there is no crime, we're good.
It's all there. liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. And again, if you're looking for some great Christmas gifts, you can go to lutfstudio.com. LUF, please type it in here. Let's stand for Live Up to Freedom.
LUTF.
Yep, lutfstudio.com. Right, Annie?
Correct. lutfstudio.com.
And there it is. There you go. Oops, sorry, Logan. There it is. All of our gifts are right there for you. All right? Great Christmas gifts available, lutfstudio.com. They're all one of a kind. So if you see something you like, you should buy it because they're one of a kind. They're hard to remake just like what you see. So there you go. lutfstudio.com and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. As always, thank you for your investigative journalism, Annie.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brannon, for letting me report on them.
Yeah,
Nobody else would.
Yeah. Well, that's what separates us from everybody else, I guess. And folks, I think you should watch Red Alert. I think you should watch that. Try to do it in one setting if you can. One setting, like Melissa and I did late last night. You need to watch it. All right, we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com.